Stan Paris trained 2 or 3 years after I did, and Stan went straight away to the UK and spent time with Stoddard, Alan Stoddard, the osteopath, and James Syriacs. And he came back to New Zealand and taught us all that he'd learned. And he was a very good speaker and very eloquent, and sold manipulative therapy to us here. And he spent, after 2 or 3 years in New Zealand, he went to the United States and worked at Boston General Hospital, where he tried to introduce manipulation, but he was forbidden to use it because there was some law against physios manipulating. But in 1967, when I thought I'd got pretty good at treating backs using my own system, we remortgaged the house, and I went around the world and I visited every known non-surgical spine centre. And among those I visited was Stanley Paris in Boston, and I saw how he was getting on. And Stan was a bright light in the States because they didn't have any physiotherapists there who were familiar and competent manipulators among their own physios. So when Stan went there and started teaching, he was overwhelmed, and he became a very widely known and respected physio in the States. And then he started his own universities, and that has established, he's got his PhD, and so he's become very prominent, and he's influenced an enormous number of American physios in the manipulative field. So he's one, because he introduced it to the States and become very prominent there. This questionnaire that they sent out to various physios was only in the States. It was American physiotherapists that they secularized. My prominence on that list was because between 1976 and 96, I presented over 200 4-day seminars in the States, and the majority of people on that list that were canvassed said that they had been influenced by McKenzie, and I got a top spot, and Brian Mulligan was, I think, 3rd or 4th, and Stan, either maybe the other way around, maybe Stan was 3rd or 4th and Brian 5th or 6th or something like that. But there were 3 of us out of the 7. Syriacs was number 3 or 4. So why was it that New Zealanders were? Because, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. Brian's techniques are different again. Brian's teaches hands-on, with a difference. There's a difference in Brian's manipulative and mobilising procedures than from the usual chiropractic or osteopathic or Paris type manoeuvres. Very gentle, and a lot of people find that's all they need. But after I went on that tour, I visited, the first guy I stopped in Vancouver, and there was a guy there called John Bordillon, who was a medical degree, practicing manipulation, and I visited him. I studied with him for a week. Then I went on to see Stan, and then I saw John Manel in the States, and then to Syriacs in London, Carlton Bourne in Oslo, Robert Main in Paris, and Carl Levitt in Prague. And when Carl Levitt saw the film of the lateral shift, he said, "You have to come to the next meeting of BAM, British Association of Manipulative Medicine." So Joe and I trotted off to Monte Carlo, courtesy of another patient actually, and with 2 concurrent sessions. John Manel was talking about spray and stretch, spray ice on them and then stretch them. And I was talking about correction of the lateral shift and showing a film. Well, Manel was such a famous character at that time, I was unheard of. He had 200 people at his session, and I had the other 20. And then that was at only 20 people. What a long way to come to show this film to 20 people. But I think it was the next morning, the secretary of the conference came up to me and says, "Mr. McKenzie, your film has attracted considerable interest. Would you be prepared to put it on again?" He says, "We've switched the afternoon session, and it'll be a concurrent session with John Manel, but," he says, "I think you'd find it worthwhile." I had 200 and he had 20, and that exposure went everywhere. Syriacs asked me to write a chapter on it in his book. But to answer the question why, I can see how Stan became so famous, because he demonstrated manipulative therapy, and it was a hands-on procedure which everyone likes to do. And my stuff was attractive to people in the States, because in many states they're forbidden to manipulate. So it was attractive to be able to get the patient sorted out without touching them. Well, to a large extent without touching them. And when I first went to the States, I had Ron Donaldson was the first orthopaedic surgeon to see this done. My second visit, I think I had 3 or 4 orthopaedic surgeons do the courses, sitting on Part A, the lumbar spine. The last time I went there, it was a course just for orthopaedic surgeons. We had 40 orthopaedic surgeons observing the patients, because I used to see, it's the only way I could teach, see patients, give the theory in the morning, see patients, 4 patients each afternoon. And some of them used to bring their difficult patients, and sometimes they were really difficult, and I have to say, I can't fix this patient. This patient's not suitable for this treatment. It's your problem. Nice to be able to hand it back. And that's another thing. If after 4 or 5 days, no movement of position has been found that reduces, centralises or stops the pain, the patient's not suitable. You're going to affect the symptoms one way or the other if you give them a proper repeated movement, repeated end range movement. Sooner or later you're going to expose it. It may take 2 or 3 days, but you'll expose it. And if you can't, you should send it back to the doctor and don't lose any more valuable time. The patient should have something else. I don't know what it is, but they should have something else. And that's appealing. It appeals to the surgeons.